Why has the country, which is now known as the Democratic Republic of Congo, never known peace? Welcome to the Sankofa Pan-African series. Please support us through Patreon and by buying me coffee so we can continue to bring you this series. Subscribe if you've not yet done so, and please turn on your notification buttons so you know when we have new episodes. And of course, share our videos with all your contacts. So today we'll be looking at the history of the Kingdom of Congo, because I believe that history should be a tool for helping us to understand how we got to be where we are, and that knowledge should help us chart a path for the future. Now, the history of the Kingdom of Congo is closely intertwined with the history of humans in the Congo Basin, which is in turn defined by their relationship with the forest and savanna woodlands. Throughout the Congo Basin, small patches of savanna have been found with with evidence of prehistoric human settlements. Within the forested landscape of Central Africa, native populations have practiced shifting cultivation for thousands of years. Many of the people practicing shifting cultivation systems that were brought by the Bantu people who migrated there from West Africa. The Central African area, which is also rich in mineral and natural resources, has been an important region for trade for many hundreds of years. Thousands of years ago, when agriculturist Bantu people moved into the area, the people's primary economic activities were long fallow agriculture and arboriculture. These were supplemented by animal husbandry and hunting. The Kingdom of Congo ruled most of the area from the mouth of the Congo River from the late 1300s. Some oral traditions attribute the foundation of the Kingdom of Congo to a mythical hero called Lukeni, who is believed to have moved from the north across the Zaire River and conquered the area south of it. Other oral sources say that the founders of the kingdom were coppersmiths, and that the kingdom evolved as a result of a vibrant copper and salt trade. Anyway, whichever way it first started, by the 1500s, there was a centralized monarchy ruling the large kingdom of Congo. The kingdom is also generally believed to have been formed when two smaller kingdoms came together to form one large state. The country formed occupied a lush and fertile portion of the west coast of southern Africa, the north of the modern-day Angola, and south of the Democratic Republic of Congo. Its capital was called Mbanza, Congo. Congo was the largest and most powerful state in Central Africa, with a highly centralized monarchy and an influential noble class. The capital city was a neat, well-ordered town, which many of the population were located in villages around the capital, which now made socio-economic, military, and political organization easier by having the capital in the center. Anyway, the rest of the kingdom was divided into 6 provinces, of which the most important at one point was probably Soyo, because of its coastal location. The kingdom was highly developed in many ways. Agriculture was the basis of production. In the villages, land was owned communally, and harvests were divided among families with some set aside, some of the harvest were then set aside for the payment of taxes. Towns had plantations that provided them with essentials. They also collected iron, copper, salt, ivory, animal hides, and bark cloth from the villages. These were some of the earliest materials that were traded when the Portuguese first arrived there. Now, the system of taxation was based on the portion of the resources produced by communities. So, and in the area of textile production, they were so advanced that, in the words of one of the earliest Portuguese sea captains to see, their woven textile, and his name was Duarte Panchero Pereira. This lived around 1460 to 1533. When he saw the textile produced in the Congo, they were so sophisticated that he believed that those made in Italy did not surpass them in workmanship. What really surprised the early Europeans who saw Congolese textiles was the way in which Congo cloths, the fabrics, Congo textiles, were woven from raffia and not silk, which was the most coveted fabrics in Europe at that time. And the Congo cloth, in spite of the fact that it was woven from raffia, they were, however, softer to the touch and of way higher quality than the silks that were being produced in Europe. Some of the Congo fabrics taken from those early days can still be found in various museums in Europe and the Americas. So if you have a chance to visit any of the museums, go and look there. You will see samples of this magnificent craftsmanship. Now, the first European contact with the Kingdom of Congo was with the Portuguese mercenary, that we have been told was an explorer, Diego Cao, in 1483. According to scholars such as Vancina, 1966, Randalls, 1968, Ecom, 1972, and so many others, when Diego Cao and his crew first landed in the Zaire estuary, he was astonished to discover the existence of a centralized political system which rivaled that of the Portuguese kingdom in sophistication. He was from Portugal, and he was amazed, at the system of centralized political state that existed there, which he believed was as sophisticated, as well organized, if not even better than what he left in his country, Portugal. The Portuguese were so cautious in their dealing with the Bakongo when they first arrived there on an equal basis that the Bakongo allowed him to take 4 of their citizens back with him to Portugal to serve as their ambassadors in the court of the King of Portugal. Relations were still on an equal basis when Cao returned 2 years later and was allowed to journey inland to the capital, Mbaza, Congo. There, in 1491, he baptized the king as João I and his son Afonso, and they even allowed him to begin to build a stone church. The 6 chief nobles of the kingdom also converted and adopted Portuguese names and titles. That's how friendly the Portuguese were, in getting under their skin. Anyway, the next major Portuguese intervention after 1491 came in 1506 after the death of João. Traditionally, his son Afonso could not become king due to the established rules of succession that were in place in the country. So therefore, was elected as the tradition dictated. However, the Portuguese decided to support Afonso, who was their preferred candidate because he was a Christian candidate. They then helped him defeat Mpanzu. Through this interference in succession, the trading relationship between the kingdoms of Congo and Portugal were strengthened as a result of the rapid conversion of Congo to Christianity also flourished. The economy became heavily centered in the capital, unlike previously. So the economy became heavily centered in the capital, while the provinces were then kept poor. Gradually, the export of slaves became a way of paying for the importation of European goods, and slavery then became central to the economy. All of these were, of course, only the beginning of the long, destructive imperial intervention. The decline of the glorious kingdom of Congo provides a fascinating study into the relationship between Europe and Africa, which started several centuries before the recognized age of imperialism. The question of whether European contact exploited and ruined the Congo kingdom, or whether factions within Congo manipulated it for their own ends, forms part of an important and interesting historical debate. There's little question, though, that the African kingdom of Congo came off worse in the long run. Basil Davison is one of the main exponents of the theory that the Congo was corrupted and ruined by the European desire for slaves. He actually points to the rapid conversion to Christianity of the Congo nobility, the acceptance of all things Portuguese, including names, titles, education, building styles, and the gradual Portuguese interference in politics and the economy, which culminated in the 17th century invasions and colonizations. Davison sees the relationship between the two countries as having been designed to be colonial right from the start. So the Portuguese went there knowing what they wanted, they wanted to take over control. But because they pretended to be on equal terms and friendly with the Congolese, they were able to infiltrate them and achieve their end. While the Kingdom of Congo was subjugated to rule by Portugal, other European settlements, of course, occupied the fringes of the Congo Basin. West and East Africa were principally colonized by the British, with some French enclaves. To the north of the Portuguese-occupied area was French Equatorial Africa. The region was disputed between France and Portugal. France then sent their own explorer, Pierre de Brazza, who settled in the northern bank of the Congo River and gave his name to the capital of present-day Republic of Congo, which is Brazzaville. For viewers who might not be familiar with the geography of Africa, there are two distinct countries in Africa which have Congo as part of their names. There's the Democratic Republic of Congo, which we're focusing on here, which gained its independence from Belgium and has its capital as Kinshasa. And then there is the Republic of Congo, which has Brazzaville as its capital, which has been colonized, which was colonized by France. So the dense forests of the central Congo Basin were rarely explored until the wave of British mercenaries in the mid-1800s arrived in the area. And then so you have people like David Livingstone, Richard Burton, Henry Morton Stanley, and others. However, while the British focused their colonial empire on other parts of the world, a Belgian monarch saw and coveted the Congo Basin. Henry Morton Stanley was then hired by this monarch and paid. The monarch was Leopold II of Belgium. He was the king of Belgium, and he hired Henry Morton Stanley to help him map out the region for exploitation. So Leopold of Belgium then set about to take control of the Congo region. He succeeded in having it assigned to him during that blight on human history, the Scramble for Africa, also known as the Conference of Berlin in 1885. So seeking to establish a colonial empire, Leopold of Belgium ironically named his colony the Congo Free State, but it was anything but free. He then set about to exploit it of ivory, rubber, and other natural resources. Leopold, King of Belgium, focused his economic interest in the extortion of latex, an abundant product in Congo. He used troops of mercenaries to force the local population to provide rubber for him to sell for profit. The extraction of ivory and also mining helped to fill Leopold's pockets. In order to achieve the unreasonable quotas which he set for collecting, rubber and other mined items, Leopold's agents started mutilating the local population as a form of punishment. It was a form of punishment for locals who failed to fulfill the unreasonably high quotas. At first, people were killed when they failed to meet the quotas. Then the hands of people who were killed were then cut off to show as proof that they had been killed. Baskets of severed hands were then transported and then set down at the feet of European post commanders. This quickly became the symbol of the Congo Free State. Describing this gory episode, Peter Forbath, author of The River Congo, writes that collecting hands became an end in itself. Soldiers of the force publique, who were paid by Leopold of Belgium, brought the hands to the stations instead of rubber. Gradually, troops began to use human hands, as currency, because and this was in a bid to save the money that Leopold invested in ammunition. So soldiers were ordered to bring back a severed native hand to represent each cartridge that they fired. And these people, it was barbarism at its worst. Hands were also chopped off to punish workers who did not fulfill their quotas. Because at the same time, the hands also proved that the soldiers were doing their part in pressurizing the local population to meet their quotas. Hands of Africans were first chopped up, then smoked to preserve them so they could be counted and recorded later. Till today, there are images of severed hands which symbolize the triumph of the Flemish spirit in Belgian museums, such as the internationally famous Museum Anne de Strom, MAS for short. There are still displays in the museums. Entire Congolese villages were forced to harvest rubber or face death by their Belgian overseers. Villages which resisted were set on fire. Women were taken hostage, and many of them starved to death, while the men were sent to gather rubber, whether they liked it or not. People who tried to flee died in the rainforest. Of course, there were revolts and rebellions, but they failed because Leopold had a superior army which shot down the people who tried to escape. Statistical sources actually show that between 1880 and 1920, the Congolese population was reduced by half. Estimates show that more Congolese died during this genocide than Jews died under Hitler. Let's also not forget that in other parts of Africa, where colonial powers ruled, especially Germany, France, and Portugal, they imitated Leopold's methods. The Hiroro Namakwa genocide, which took place in the country that we now know as Namibia, is an example. Please watch our episode on that genocide if you have not yet done so. The statistics are similarly grim. Also, while the US did not take part in the colonizing of Africa directly, it was a staunch supporter of King Leopold of Belgium. The US was the first country to recognize Leopold's personal claim to the Congo. Now, the brutal conditions under which Leopold operated this odious commercial enterprise is yet to be matched anywhere in the world. The region was then annexed by the government of his country, Belgium, and then it was governed as Belgian Congo from 1908 until 1960. Rather than alleviate the exploitation of the country, subsequent Belgian rulers of the Congo expanded the trade of rubber through plantations of Brazilian rubber trees. Oil palm was also an important commercial product established in Belgian Congo. Unilever, a company which was and is still spread over several African countries, grew rich on soap produced from soap production, which began with oil palm sourced from the Congo Basin. Those of you of my generation will be familiar with palm olive. It was a Unilever product, very, very popular all over Africa. It started, by using oil palms from the Congo Basin. Now, the country now known as the Democratic Republic of Congo gained independence from Belgium in 1960. Although between 1971 and 1997, the name was changed by the then ruler, Mobutu Sese Seko, to the Republic of Zaire. Following the overthrow of Mobutu in 1997, the name Democratic Republic of Congo was reinstated. Now, there are several books out there which have tried to track the various upsurge of violence and wars that have besieged that resource-laden country, the Democratic Republic of Congo. So I will only briefly mention the dastardly murder of the country's first democratically elected president, Patrice Lumumba, whose assassination has been laid squarely at the hands of Belgium with the aid of their African stooges. However, the rest of Europe and North America were also not innocent. I'll give you an example. And for viewers in Canada, please note that Canada played a significant role in Patrice Lumumba's death. According to the Canadian Foreign Policy Institute, CFPI, when Patrice Lumumba was elected as the first prime minister to lead the newly independent country, he was focused on pursuing genuine decolonization and development. But Belgium instigated a secessionist movement in the eastern part of the country. As a matter of fact, in response, Lumumba asked the UN for a peacekeeping force to help protect the territorial integrity of the newly independent country. However, rather than get the protection he requested, the US used the United Nations UN mission to undermine Lumumba. Unfortunately, Canada colluded with the US to use the UN against Lumumba. They and their European allies supported Dag Hammarskjöld, who was the UN Secretary General at the time, to derail Lumumba. And between 1960 and 1964, 1,900 Canadian troops participated in the UN mission. Canada was one of the most active military players in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Again, according to the CFPI, there were almost always more Canadian officers than those of any other nationality, and the Canadians were in charge of the most crucial logistic positions, including Chief Operations Officer and Chief Signals Officers, when the country was being derailed. Canada also pushed to have intelligence gathering signal detachments to oversee UN intelligence, and they pushed for a Canadian to remain at the UN headquarters in order to, and I quote, maintain both Canadian and Western influence. End of quote. Canada, the US, and European countries like France supported Dag Hammarskjöld, even as he sided with the Belgian-backed secessionists against the Congolese government. Please watch our episode on the remarkable African freedom fighter, Patrice Lumumba, if you have not yet done so. So the damage is still ongoing today, as the Democratic Republic of Congo continues to experience crisis after crisis, fueled by European neocolonialists in the form of multinational companies, aided by corrupt African leaders. The masses in that country have never benefited from its astonishing reserve of natural resources. Thanks for watching. Please support us through Patreon and by buying me coffee so we can continue to bring you this series. Subscribe if you've not yet done so, and please turn on your notification buttons so you know when we have new episodes. And of course, share our videos with all your contacts.